What is up, guys? Eric here from Real Film Reviews, bringing you another movie review, this time for the new Star Wars film, Rogue One. Rogue One is directed by Gareth Edwards, stars Felicity Jones, Diego Luna, Ben Mendelsohn, and Donnie Yen, and is a Star Wars story, is what it's referred to as in this universe. This is the first spin-off Star Wars film that we've ever gotten. It is not taking place during any film. It's taking place during a middle part in between two movies, that being between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. This tells the story of how the rebellion was able to obtain the plans to the Death Star and sort of fill in some little plot holes that people always had with Star Wars. Disney is planning a lot of these movies. I know for a fact they have a Han Solo one coming up because they've already casted Alden Ehrenreich to play the new Han Solo, and I am very skeptical of how many they decide to do. I don't want this to become just a money-making machine for them where they just churn these out, because I want them to be good movies. Rogue One to me was a solid start. It did not blow me away. I think Felicity Jones did a very good job in this movie. I really enjoyed Donnie Yen's character. He was really interesting to see sort of the not classically trained but force-sensitive character that we've never really gotten to see in a Star Wars film. And I think that there are lots of little things that this movie does very right, but there are also things that I felt were sort of pandering just to fans. It was just some fan service that was unnecessary. As I said, the performances in this movie are good all around. The story is somewhat interesting. The main strengths, though, are obviously the effects. This movie has pretty amazing effects throughout all of it, but the big thing about it is the battle scenes. The battle scenes have great effects, and we get to see combat that is from the original trilogy of Star Wars. These are AT-ATs and, Rebel blasters and all of these things that we've seen in all those old movies, but now we get to see them with updated CGI and great effects, so it makes it feel very friendly almost, because we remember that from watching it as kids as a Star Wars fan. I'm speaking as a Star Wars fan about Star Wars fans. But even against that, the battle sequences don't necessarily feel extremely sci-fi. There are obviously sci-fi elements, but they almost feel sort of Vietnam era battles, and specifically the ending battle in this film. It takes place on like a jungly area, and it feels sort of like a Vietnam film, the way that they film it and the way the characters are dressed and everything. Obviously, when all the space stuff starts happening, it doesn't anymore, but for a short period there it does. And because of that, I think we get a real war feeling to this film. We get the sadness that comes with the victory in this film throughout it, really. There's not really any clear, clean-cut, happy moments in this film, I would say. And that's a good thing, because as a war movie, it shouldn't have those moments. The main issue that I have with this, though, is that the story, even though I think it's handled well, it just kind of fell flat for me. It is something where we know how it's going to end if you've seen Star Wars, so it's not a shock when you get to that big climax at the end. And because of that, the beginning drags. The beginning of this movie is a ton of exposition. I mean, they are dropping exposition by the freaking truckload on you for the first, half hour of this movie before we even sort of get into the storyline. And when you do get into the story, it becomes more interesting, and the general premise begins to, perk up a little bit, and it becomes more interesting. But I just really felt the story was falling short in the beginning, and by the time it had picked up, we knew how it was going to end. We just needed that middle journey, which it was really cool to get to see the other perspective from not a Jedi or someone that's friends with Jedi. We got to see the perspective of just a soldier who was given a mission in this war. The addition of the new character K2SO as a comedic relief was really good. I thought that he had some moments where he wasn't as funny, but as a whole, I enjoyed his character because there's no other real comic relief in this film besides him, and if he wasn't there, this movie would feel even more dark. But the one other thing I want to touch on with this film, and I mentioned it earlier in the review, is the fan service. I'm not going to spoil anything that we see in this film, or I guess I should say you will see in this film if you go watch it. But there is one scene in particular in this movie that felt so extremely unnecessary, and it was so poorly done in the actual scene that I really hated it when I was watching the movie. I can honestly say, sitting through that scene that was maybe a minute and a half or 2 minutes long, I was genuinely like mad that they included that scene because it felt so out of place in the story and unnecessary to be there, and it didn't add anything. It was just fan service for fan service sake, and I did not enjoy that. I'm gonna give Rogue One a B. If you enjoy Star Wars, definitely go see this movie. I don't want everyone to think that I hate this film, because I don't. I just think there are small issues with it that begin to pile up when you think about each little one. This movie does have good aspects, but it also has bad aspects, and I feel like it needs to be looked at in that way. This is a solid base. This is a good beginning film for these Star Wars story films, but I hope that they go up from here and don't just stay at this level, because if they do stay at this level, it's going to get to a point where it feels like Disney is just doing it for a money grab rather than them trying to actually add something new to the universe. Well guys, as always, I'm Eric. If you enjoyed this review, please do like, subscribe, comment down below what you thought of Rogue One, share everything we do here on Real Film Reviews, and I hope to see you guys later.